What's up, guys? I'm Taylor Gottney, and this is the brand new Game Time podcast. Join the three guys from Auburn as we talk about all things sports. From predictions to reactions, there's something in store for everyone. Enjoy this episode.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Game Time Talk Show now, not the podcast anymore, because as you can see us. We got myself, Max Besman. I'm also joined by my co-host, Taylor Gottney, as well as Reese Kinder.
What's good, guys?
Reese as well. If you're new to the talk show, we're just three guys that have been doing sports, journalism, sportscasting, whatever you want to call it, for the last couple of years now at Auburn High School. Me and Taylor have now moved on to college. Taylor currently at ASU, Arizona State University.
Always got to mention it, bro.
I'm currently at Full Sail University, not in person though yet. I'm going to be moving in January, but Reese is still making his way through the ranks in Auburn High School. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into episode 3 of the Game Time Talk.
There's a lot going on, and we're here to break it down on this week's edition of Weekend Reactions.
And now we're going to go ahead and get into some weekend reactions, and we're going to start off here with some college football. So, big weekend for college football this weekend, a lot of upsets. But I was talking to Reese about this the other day, and when we were talking this weekend, it was almost like it was either we 100% agreed, like expected what was going to happen, or we 100% didn't expect what was going to happen. So, for example, last week we actually did try and record a third episode as a prediction episode for this upcoming week. And on that episode, if I remember correctly, we predicted Texas to beat Michigan. I think we all thought that was going to happen, as well as Tennessee to beat NC State. Those were the two biggest games, I think, of this weekend. And really, it was everything. I don't think there was anything unexpected in either of those games. They were both blowouts. Texas, their offense is probably not the best. I'd still say Ohio State probably has them on a leg up right there. But I'd say their top 5 offense and their defense really impressed me. But Michigan, they got to find a quarterback. I mean, there's no option at this point. Like I saw this crazy comment about Davis Warren the other day, and we can say this now because we're no longer in cooperation with a school. I saw a comment the other day that said, Davis Warren, I don't care if you got leukemia, but you need to know how to throw the damn football. And it's like, that's crazy. But after what I saw on this Saturday, because I was excited for this game. It's in the big house. I saw a lot of alumni was in the stadium for Michigan and Texas. These are two blue bloods, I'd say, in the college football world. I think we'd all agree with that. And you look at Davis Warren, 22 of 33, not terrible completion percentage, 204 yards, decent, 1 passing touchdown and 2 interceptions. That's just not going to cut it against a powerhouse like Texas. And so I think that was very expected. Michigan's defense, I still think, is a pretty good defense. I think they just ran into a buzzsaw. That was the Longhorns, as well as Tennessee and NC State. Tennessee beating them 51-10. I told y'all this when we recorded that episode last week. Obviously, it didn't see the light of day. But I told y'all I was worried about NC State's running defense. And what happened? Tennessee gashed them the entire game all night long. I mean, NC State really just didn't stand a chance. And a lot of people were saying, to kind of relate Tennessee and Texas, both these games, both SEC schools, basically another example of how the SEC is better than the rest of the country. I don't believe so. I still think Miami is definitely a top 10 team. But I do think these were two teams in NC State and Michigan that were just not prepared. As you see right here, Sampson, Tennessee's running back, 20 carries for 132 rushing yards. And a lot of people were praising Nico Iamaleava, and I know he is the talk of the town, 5-star recruit, a big recruit in Tennessee's history. Hopefully the next man up after Hendon Hooker to get him to the promised land. But he really didn't even have a great game. But honestly, for me, if you're a Tennessee fan, and I'm gonna get to y'all in a second here. If you're a Tennessee fan, that's got to be better for you because your best player, Nico Yamaleva, your quarterback, who a lot of them have Nico in the Heisman conversation. It really didn't look like it. Yes, he was 60 for 23, 211 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he also had 2 picks. And it wasn't really a great game. I think the running back stole the show. But what do y'all think about both these games? And was it completely expected? And is State and Michigan season over? And how good are Tennessee and Texas?
Yeah, I think talking about, of course, Michigan has their offensive struggles, but I mean, really going into the season, we were like, oh, Donovan Edwards is going to carry this Michigan offense. And really, the one thing that stood out to me was this Texas defense holding him in check, only 8 carries for 41 yards for Donovan Edwards. And I mean, that's a really slow game for him. So this Texas team, yeah, they're good. They're good on offense. They're good on defense. We knew that. But this Michigan team, they have to figure it out. We said it last week after their game against Fresno. I think it was Reese that commented on them barely winning. Yeah, they got to figure it out. They got an easy game against Arkansas State, but then you go into Big Ten conference play. You play people like USC, at Washington, Oregon, at OSU. Yeah, Michigan, you got to figure it out. You got to find a quarterback. You got to find an answer. That's all I'm going to say on that game.
Reese?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, Texas, I did say last week, I do think Texas could possibly be a national championship contender. Honestly, in my opinion, I think they could win the national championship with the team they have. This defense, I mean, never seen a Texas defense like this, not even last year when they made it to the college football playoff. And then on the Michigan side of things, last week, as Taylor mentioned, I picked Michigan as loser. They were one of the losers on the winners losers segment that we had. And Michigan, this team, like you said, Max, I mean, it has a good defense, but also at the same time, just like no offense whatsoever. Like Davis Warren is definitely not the answer, and I don't know what you're gonna do at quarterback. And yeah, honestly, I think this matchup here, Michigan just got overpowered by a very high-powered offense in Texas.
Yeah, and then talking about the Tennessee NC State game, the second part of that question. Yeah, Nico really didn't look that good. Unfortunately, I didn't get to watch the game. I was sitting in the student section for the Arizona State game that came on a few hours later. But I mean, just looking at the stats and watching some of the highlight videos, it really was all about the Tennessee run game with Dylan Sampson and Deshaun Bishop. Dylan Sampson, 20 carries for 132 yards and 2 touchdowns with a 34-yard run in that game. And then also Nico on the ground having 65 yards and a touchdown. Yeah, it's got to make Tennessee fans super happy to see that, even if my star quarterback throws 2 picks, my team can win by 41 points against a ranked opponent. And then for NC State, Grayson McCall, I loved him at Coastal Carolina, but he just needs to figure something out at NC State. And that offense is really standstill. I don't know who their offensive coordinator is, but yeah, he needs to figure something out in that game. I think the NC State defense played good in the first quarter and part of the second quarter, but if your team only puts up 3 points in the first half, your defense is going to break at some point. So great win for Tennessee. I think they're definitely a winner of this week.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, in my opinion, I agree with you, Taylor, there. NC State, I'm going to start with NC State because, obviously they got blown out. But, I told y'all last week when we did the episode, I told y'all that it was going to be close, but I guess I was really wrong there. I didn't realize that Tennessee had such a high-powered offense. This Tennessee team, their schedule is very easy, honestly, with the way they only have 3 ranked teams left on their schedule with Oklahoma, Alabama, and Georgia left on their schedule. And this Tennessee team really could go places with the schedule they have and possibly make it to this 12-team playoff. And like I was saying with NC State too, NC State team Grayson McCall's just gotta find his receivers and, kind of read the defense. And I do think this NC State team will improve later on in the year. But this early in the season after that West Carolina scare, I just don't see NC State, they might go 8-4, but that's kind of a low standard for them this year.
Yeah, if you're Tennessee, you got Kent State, but then come the week after that, you go to Oklahoma. Could be a good game. But we're going to stay in college football a little bit here. So like I opened the segment off with, there were a lot of things that we expected, and obviously as Auburn fans, all three of us born and raised in Auburn, Alabama, there were a lot of things we did not expect. But I'm going to start off. I just compared two games, how they were similar, how they were different. Texas, Michigan. We all just did that. Texas, Michigan, Tennessee, NC State. I want to compare and contrast the Northern Illinois Notre Dame game and Auburn at Cal. So Northern Illinois, 28.5 point underdog coming into this game. And my goodness, Northern Illinois earned this victory. There's a lot of times where, big upsets like these, it's just the other team played like crap, which they did. Notre Dame did not look like the same team that went to Aggieland and beat the brakes off Texas A&M. But Northern Illinois did look like the better team. This game was on at the same time as the Auburn-Cal game, but I was, switching to see this one because I noticed it was close. And it's Northern Illinois versus Notre Dame. It's like, if this ends up being an upset, I want to see how it goes down. And I'll tell you what, start to finish, Northern Illinois was, 100% the better team. Really controlled the time of possession. They had it for more the ball for almost 10 more minutes than Notre Dame had the ball, which Notre Dame, I feel like, is a more run-style offense with Riley Leonard at the helm. But all that being said, that, along with the Auburn at Cal game, I'll tell you what, as an Auburn fan, it's tough to see, but I did talk to a lot of people I trust and a lot of people I know that know football, including my dad and a couple other people at the country club I work at. And a lot of them were saying, yes, this is a tough loss, but you really look at Auburn's track record the last couple of seasons, as well as Notre Dame. This has kind of been the common theme, is it not? I mean, like Notre Dame last year, you lose to Marshall. You lose to Marshall at the beginning of the year. Yes, you come back the rest of the season and you look good and you make a good bowl game. But, I mean, Auburn last year, you lose to New Mexico State before playing in the Iron Bowl. This has become really the common theme between these two programs. And I know there's others out there, but I'll tell you what, these two teams did not handle business at all this week. And, a lot of people, bless you, Reese.
Thank you.
But a lot of people want me to come on here and want us to come on here and slander Peyton Thorne, which, really quick, I'll get that out of the way. Peyton Thorne should not be the starter next week against New Mexico for sure. And we're going to talk more about that tomorrow on the prediction episode. But at the same time, it's at the end of the day, it's a team game. And that's the beautiful thing about football and sports in general, is that it's against the whole team, the coaching staff, everybody involved. Same with Notre Dame, especially with Marcus Freeman. I mean, this is year 3 for him, if I'm correct. You got to get it done at a place like Notre Dame. So really what I want to ask you is, yes, it's an impressive victory for Northern Illinois and Cal to go into these hostile environments against these good teams and beat them, be the better team. But how concerning is this for two programs, Notre Dame and Auburn, that just haven't been the same over the last 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, when you think of Notre Dame football, you think of, like a national powerhouse, one of those independent teams that is always ranked super high when the season starts. But yeah, like you said, this has become a recurring theme every single season. Losing to Marshall last year, losing to Northern Illinois last year. I just want to highlight, like, the Notre Dame defense. If you give up 190 rush yards to Northern Illinois, you're going to lose that game. In comparison against Texas A&M when they won 23-13, they only gave up 146 rushing yards. So this Notre Dame team went into this game. They paid $1.4 million, by the way, to play Northern Illinois, to try to get an easy win before, a tough schedule coming up. But this Notre Dame team just overlooked this game, and they lost to a worthy opponent. Now Northern Illinois is ranked, and we'll see what happens to that Mountain America team. But Auburn, on the other hand, it was just frustrating to watch. We have a guy down the hall, one of my best friends, his name is Richard. He's a Cal fan. He's from California. And, Fernando Mendoza, the Cal quarterback, played amazing, especially in the first half. I think he had like one incompletion the whole first half, and it was on the last throw of the first half. This Auburn defense honestly, I will say the Auburn defense, I liked what I saw. They played very well. But when you're driving down the field and your quarterback throws 4 interceptions, granted, one was not his fault. It was off of a drop by Cam Coleman. But if he throws 3 interceptions and goes 14 for 27, yeah, This defense is always going to be in bad position. And also, the Cal punter, I want to highlight him real quick.
Yeah.
It almost
Dude.
felt like Auburn was never in opposing field position. We were always starting at like the 5 or the 2 or even like the 15. But yeah, this Auburn team defense played great. It's a recurring theme for Auburn every year. The defense plays great, but just gets tired because the offense sputters out and doesn't do anything. So great win by Cal. I'm excited to see what they do this season, but I'm also excited to see how Auburn recovers from this.
Yeah, I mean the Northern Illinois game. I mean great win for Northern Illinois. I mean that coach for Northern Illinois. That's what makes you love college football after that interview he had at the end of the game. And I mean, I do think this Notre Dame team, they're gonna have a lot of problems this year. I noticed that in the Texas A&M game that Notre Dame had more of a defense than they do offense, and that's really going to be a problem with this Notre Dame team if they can't get the job done. And I mean, like Taylor said, this Northern Illinois team ranked in the top 25. And honestly, I want to highlight that because if this Northern Illinois team, with the schedule they have, if they go 12-0 and win their conference, they could make the college football playoff and be the group of 5 representative in the college football playoff. Like that would be insane if that happened. But
Absolutely.
honestly, I do think Notre Dame could bounce back after this. They just need to, in practice this week, just kind of go over some of those mistakes they made. Credit to Northern Illinois for winning this game. Big win for their program. First MAC team to ever beat a top 5 team ever. And I mean, yeah. And now going on in the Cal and Auburn game, I was there. That had to be the most depressing shit I've ever watched. That
Yeah.
was so
Yeah,
that was so bad.
my mom was at the game, and I was like, the first half, Peyton Thorne didn't look too bad. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't too bad in the first half, but once the second half started, she was just like texting me about the refs and everything. I was like, yeah, it's awful. That is another thing.
Yeah.
Refs were really, really bad for both teams, for both sides.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean from being there in person, the refs were bad. But still, I mean, gives no excuse to throw 4 interceptions. And I mean, honestly, in my opinion, I mean, from watching that game in person, Peyton Thorne is not the guy. And Hugh Freeze, honestly, I'm sorry, but like this is coming from a true Auburn fan, but Hugh Freeze might not be the answer at head coach,
The thing that
honestly.
really frustrated me about the game too was, coming into it, everyone was like, "Oh, Jaden Knott, he might not play, so Cal's screwed." He only had 10 rushes for 11 yards.
Exactly.
So we
Yeah.
shut down literally their best player, the 93 overall in college football 25, and still lost. So
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, like still going with this, I mean, if you look at this Auburn schedule, it's not. I mean, New Mexico has a high-powered offense, doesn't have a defense, but I do think we'll beat them. But I mean, the problem is if Peyton Thorne starts this weekend against New Mexico, all you're gonna hear is, "Oh, Peyton Thorne's back. He just had a bad game against Cal." And then if you lose to Arkansas, your season's over. Like you might not be talking about you might not even be talking about a bowl game this season. You might be talking about can we even get 4 to 5 wins? Like that might be what your conversation is because in my opinion, after this New Mexico game, you don't have an easy game on your schedule. You have an Arkansas team that can score. You have an Oklahoma team that's ranked. You have a Georgia team that is just amazing. You have a
Yes.
Missouri team that hasn't given up any points this season. You have you have a Kentucky team that might suck, but who knows what they're going to do on any given week. And then you have a Vanderbilt team who comes out of nowhere this season and has Diego Pavia, who beat you last year in your home stadium. And then your only easiest game after this is Louisiana Monroe. And if this Auburn team doesn't start Hank Brown at quarterback, this weekend against New Mexico, Peyton Thorne and Hugh Freeze will be booed. I can guarantee that. And also, I do think that this Auburn team will win 4 games.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I 100% agree with you. You hear it around. I obviously Taylor. You're in Arizona right now, but Reese, I think you can agree with me when I say this. The vibe around this city after that game, was over. Is just, phew.
Yeah, I
It's
mean, actually today when I was at Circle K, in Auburn, and I ran into Micah Riley, the tight end. And I mean, I just told him to keep his head up and everything. I was like, we were just talking about the game, and he was like, I was like, hopefully y'all can bounce back next week. And he was like, yeah, we're gonna try. It wasn't a confident, positive answer. Like, yeah, we got it next week. It's like, yeah, we're gonna try. And I mean, this team chemistry right now is just at a low, and I just don't know what's gonna happen the rest of this next few weeks for Auburn football.
Yeah. But anyways, we're gonna go ahead and move on to the NFL. Week one of the NFL. I think it was pretty entertaining.
Yeah,
Thursday night football. You start off. You have the Ravens, who, gosh, America was rooting for them to beat freaking Patty Mahomes, Taylor Swift, all of them. Travis Kelce didn't even have a great game. I think he only had like 42 receiving yards. But
yeah,
I mean, dude,
6.4 fantasy
his
points.
exactly, but Isaiah Likely had a heck of a
Wait.
game, and you just
Hey,
hate to
hey,
see.
let me show y'all something real quick. Let me show the audience something
Yeah,
real quick. This is our floor lounge. This is when the Ravens are like trying to score.
exactly.
One sec.
No, because
Watch this, bro.
yeah.
Moments before
no,
this moments before
when I
disaster.
yeah
It's
no
awful.
when I tell you I jumped off my couch like when that happened, like I was so excited because really, let's be honest, the Chiefs have just completely owned the NFL for the last basically half decade. Like, like 3 Super Bowl wins already. And if they win this year, they're the first ever team to
Three feet.
yeah, no team has ever three-peated, which for some reason I thought that Brady had at some point. I could have swear he did, but guess not. And so, I mean, if they win this year, first of all, Patrick Mahomes, we might have some conversations. Not today. Obviously, we're gonna wait till we see what happens. But some other games, you had the Eagles, Packers. The NFL should never go to Brazil ever again, or else it's literally hurting the player safety both on the field and off the field.
Yes.
But I think that was a good game. I think the Eagles, while they do have a lot of pieces, for some reason they still have a lot to work on. I mean, you look at what the Eagles really have. Like, let's talk about that real quick. All right, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, wide receiver core. You have AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, who I do think are both top 10, top 15, top 20 wide receiver potential on their own. But then you also have, a defense, a revamped secondary, linebacker core and defensive line that are both just chock full of former Georgia players, which you know how good that goes. And yeah, but they honestly, to me, I thought they would blow them out a little more than they did. And then if you're the Packers, Jordan Love, a little worried there, but I think 3 to 4 weeks for what that injury looked like, I think that's not that bad. But overall, what were some of y'all's biggest surprises as well as biggest you expected this and like it furthered your expectation this weekend? Overall reactions to week one of NFL.
I mean, honestly, I thought it was great. I mean, now I am gonna congratulate Max. The Saints did win. Congratulations, Max. The Saints beat my
Yes,
Panthers, bro. I mean, it's
I
just
should have
it's
Saints.
it's being it's becoming a problem with the Panthers now. And it's the same situation that Auburn has with Peyton Thorne. It's Bryce Young. Bryce Young could be a good quarterback. We saw flashes of that last year. And I mean, he could be a good quarterback, but it's just he's not making the right decisions. And I mean, he still has a chance to develop this weekend against the Chargers. And I think he could. But I mean, honestly, what is it going to take for this new Panthers offense to just, get some firepower in there and start winning some games? Because I know I'm tired of it. The Panthers franchise, I looked at the messages after the game, and these are like some outrageous comments that people made about like the Panthers need to just blow up their stadium or something. It's like outrageous stuff like that. But honestly, what does this mean for the Saints? Because the Saints, I gotta admit, this Saints defense is insane. The Saints offense is insane. And could we see them playing at home in the Super Bowl? Like, could we,
I mean,
could we see that happen?
We're going to find out real quick. I mean, we're going to talk about it. Be sure y'all tune in to tomorrow's episode as well, because we're going to be talking about their upcoming matchup at the Cowboys and how that's a huge one for both teams. You're going to learn a lot. But Taylor, Taylor's a Denver fan because of one guy mainly, Bo Nix. And I honestly, a lot of people, Broncos lost, if y'all hadn't heard, fans, 26-20, close game against the Seahawks at Lumen Field. I think Bo Nix really didn't do terrible. I do think, though, Sean Payton threw him in the fire. I mean, 42 pass attempts for a rookie that's going against a defense that I think is one of the top 10 defenses in the NFL. You got Reek Woolen. I mean, that secondary is just a nightmare to deal with. Devon Witherspoon, like almost a resurgence of the Legion of Boom, we possibly could see for the Seahawks this year. But you go 26 of 42, 138 yards. Listen, Bo Nix, he honestly, and coming from a Saints fan, this is very high praise. He honestly does remind me a little bit of Drew Brees. Because Drew Brees, what did he do when he had Michael Thomas and, all the Marquise Colston, all those guys? What did he do? He did short slant routes, and then he also had a good run game, so he enforced the play action. And then at times, not a lot of times, but at times, he let one go down the field. So I think, short passing game is the right move. I don't think 42 passing attempts is what he needs, as well as the Broncos might not have a running back one. We need to genuinely think about that. I have Javonte Williams, not in our fantasy league that we have together, but my other one that I'm in. I have Javonte Williams as my running back too, and my goodness, I need a replacement now because they split between him and Jaleel McLaughlin. If I'm not mistaken, Jaleel McLaughlin actually had more carries than Javonte Williams did. And so that does not help a rookie quarterback at all if you're not able to keep the defense honest. And Bo Nix was actually the leading rusher, 5 carries for 35 yards and a touchdown. So 2 interceptions. The first one, that wasn't entirely his fault. There was a lot of stuff going on in that play. The second one later in the game into triple coverage, that was a mistake that, I'm not going to lie, kind of looked a little bit like the Bo Nix that we saw at Auburn rather than at Oregon. But Taylor, overall, what was your first reaction to the Bo Nix show in Denver?
Yeah, I mean, me and my friend Avery watched this game in entirety. We had Red Zone on our other TV down the hall. Yeah, Bo Nix, he came out. He looked, he's an older rookie. He's 24 and a half, so he looked really poised. He looked comfortable in the pocket, but Sean Payton, you got to give him some more opportunities. The 42 passes don't really tell the story because half of those were jet passes and screen passes. Yeah, in the first half, I think Bo looked really good. I think he looked poised. The Broncos defense looked amazing. Like, holy crap, 2 safeties in the first half, something we've never seen before. But yeah, Bo, you just got to give him more opportunities. You got to let him get those throws on the field, get his rhythm going. And we saw that at the end of the first half, actually, when Denver scored 10 points in the second half. He got his rhythm going. He got those slants. He got the timing right. That pick was mostly because Courtland Sutton didn't catch that ball. It was kind of like the Cam Coleman one where it tipped up out of his hands. But yeah, I think Bo is fine. I think all these rookie quarterbacks did fine. I think Caleb Williams honestly played the worst. That Bears offense needs to figure something out. But yeah, Sean Payton, just give Bo some more opportunities. Let him scramble a little bit more. You saw how deadly he was with his legs, scoring a 23-yard touchdown. But yeah, I was glad of Bo Nix's performance. I'm sad that he couldn't win his first game, but I think this Broncos team is fine, and I think they'll bounce back this week against the Steelers at home.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for our initial weekend reactions. And be sure to tune in on who we think is going to be the big-time winners and losers in next week's weekend games for both college football and the NFL. And speaking of winners and losers, we're going to actually jump into Reese's segment, winners and losers of the weekend. Reese, go ahead and take it away.
This is college football winners and losers.
Yeah, I mean, we did this segment last week. We debuted the segment, and I feel like it was a pretty good segment. We're gonna do college football again, just because there's a lot to talk about in college football. And I mean, I'm gonna get started with honestly the biggest loser of the week in college football, obviously Notre Dame. And I mean, in my opinion, I feel like after talking about Notre Dame for a little bit, I do want to talk a little more about their playoff chances if they even have any left. And
Done.
in
Done.
my opinion, I do think they don't have a chance at all. Like they're not going to make it anymore. But there's some people that still think they have a chance that they could win. But I mean, this Notre Dame team this weekend just very, very bad performance at home. I mean, honestly, like, what were y'all's thoughts and what do y'all think about the college football playoff for Notre Dame?
First and foremost, Riley Leonard just really disappointed me. Both this weekend and the Texas A&M weekend. I thought coming from Duke, having experience in a Power Four conference, obviously coming off an injury is never easy. But 20 of 32, 163 yards and 2 interceptions. That's not necessarily Heisman worthy, let alone playoff worthy. And I say that because if y'all don't remember too long ago, earlier this summer, I was posting some hot takes on my Instagram, and I posted Riley Leonard, like a extreme hot take. This wasn't like, oh, I think this is going to happen, but I was like, maybe something unexpected that could possibly happen. I said Riley Leonard breaks out. Oh, sorry about that. My fault. But anyways, Riley. I said basically on my story that Riley Leonard would break out and win the Heisman unexpectedly, and I think the opposite has happened so far, 100%. I mean, Riley Leonard, if anything, he is the weak point of this Notre Dame team. I mean, Jeremiah Love, their running back, had a good game, 11 carries for 79 yards, touchdown, and an insane hurdle. I don't know if y'all saw that, but yeah, Notre Dame really just in trouble, and I don't think that they're going to make the playoffs. I think their playoff hopes are done because you look at it. I thought your lifeline was that Texas A&M game. If you lose that Texas A&M game, I think you still had a chance. But with how bad FSU is, I mean, you really look at the schedule. Louisville, you better hope that Louisville's as good as they look so far. Because other than that, you got USC, who I do not think that they have a chance to beat USC at USC. I mean,
No,
you look how
honestly, USC might be like 11-1 if they like keep
Absolutely, and
performing.
we'll talk about that on predictions tomorrow. I have something to say about not only this week but next week when they go to Ann Arbor to face Michigan. I think that's actually going to be a really interesting game that people aren't talking about. As USC being the second best, possibly third or second best team in Big Ten. But talking about the Fighting Irish, to finish off my point, I think their playoff hopes are done, and I hate to see it for a Notre Dame team. I like Marcus Freeman. I think a former player, linebacker at Ohio State. I think he relates to the players very well. But I'll be honest, I just don't think he's matured as a coach. And that's coming from somebody who's not even 19 yet. Like I can even tell, like when you're playing a team that far up close to the line of scrimmage, I don't care what team it is, if your blitz doesn't reach against Northern Illinois and they're able to gash you for an 80-yard screen down the sideline, who knows what USC might throw for 400 yards against Notre Dame, if we're being
Yeah, Miller
honest.
Moss might like have a
Yeah,
field day.
Miller Moss might actually like just come out and be the best quarterback we've ever seen against the Fighting Irish. So this Notre Dame team, if you say like, do they have reason to worry? 100%, but I don't think they have reason to worry. And let me just say this too: you look up Notre Dame right now on Google Chrome as well, which I just did. Riley Leonard is actually being talked about being benched this weekend.
Yeah,
And coming into a season where he was probably one of the most highly touted transfers, not just transfer QBs, but transfers in the transfer portal. I mean, if you thought Notre Dame couldn't have any worse start to the season, after winning that Texas A&M game on game day, this is it. This is the nightmare that people with Notre Dame fans are living in. So yeah, I think playoff hopes are absolutely finished. And if you're Marcus Freeman, you better make a bowl game. That's what I'm gonna say. You better make a bowl game because it could
yeah.
get very, very dirty very quick.
Yeah, I just think this Notre Dame team, That Texas A&M game, it was really just the Connor Weigman trash show. I could
Yeah.
have easily done him as a trash can last week. But yeah, this Notre Dame team, I honestly think they're cooked. I honestly think they could lose this week at Purdue, if I'm being totally honest. We all know that Purdue is a tough place to play against when you're a ranked opponent going into it. And yeah, Louisville, Georgia Tech, FSU, USC. Yeah, I think this Notre Dame team is done, and I don't think Riley Leonard is the answer because he hasn't even thrown a touchdown pass in the season, which is ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, Notre Dame obviously they're terrible. They win biggest loser of the week, but I mean, we're gonna go to another loser that I mean, y'all might not agree with. Y'all might think they could get this season turned around, but it is the University of Alabama. The University of Alabama performed like crap. They performed like shit in the first half and part actually almost the whole game. They performed like shit against South Florida. And I mean, I think this Alabama team, you guys say that they won't lose to Wisconsin. They might not, but they're definitely going to lose 4 games this season. This Alabama team, I mean, South Florida exposed something that no other team did last year, not even Auburn. And if you blitz the whole game, it works. Jalen Milroe can't find an open guy. If you rush about 8 guys, then you're gonna get stops. Like South Florida definitely proved that. If South Florida would have had offense, Bama would have lost that game. And I mean, what do y'all think about Alabama this season?
Well, here's what I will say. I saw a lot of people on Alabama football Twitter and Alabama Barstool saying that Jalen Milroe is the problem. First of all, if you think Jalen Milroe is the problem for Alabama right now, you
Not.
you have a very high end problem because we'll take him. Like Auburn will take him. You know, a lot of schools would take a guy like Jalen Milroe. And you look at it, 16 for 26, 194 yards, 2 touchdowns. We need to be talking about the offensive line. I mean, you know, you get blitzed by. I get it; they're bringing 7 guys, but you got to be able to hold for at least. You know, you need to hold for at least something because Jalen Milroe on a lot of those plays where they were blitzing and Bama knew they were blitzing, he had no time, absolutely no time,
Yeah, it was
and
like
I
three
think that's
seconds.
exactly. I think that's the story here for Jalen Milroe and the Alabama Crimson Tide is Wisconsin. Wisconsin has seen this footage, you know, and for those who didn't watch the game, yes, it says 42-16 was the final score, but you go back to 6:45 left to go in the game. This was a 5-point game. Bama just did what Bama does and ran up the score just for looks at the end and to beat the spread, but. I think this Bama team is going to be fine. I think that their talent gap between Wisconsin, I think that's what's going to be the difference in the game. Wisconsin ain't a bad team, you know, but they're not a good team. They're not a great team. That's what I meant to
Yeah.
say. They're not a great team. And so I think it could be a close game, but I do think that Bama will win that game. But you look at after Wisconsin, you got at home against Georgia, and a lot of people are saying that might be a game of the year. And they do have a bye week, actually, I'm now seeing, which is a greatly timed bye week for Bama. But, you know, right before you play the Bulldogs. But I'm telling you, that game at home against Georgia, I do 100% agree with you on. A lot of people are saying, you know, preseason that could be game of the year. I think Georgia could possibly blow them out
Yeah,
if they
because I
don't get
mean, like,
their yeah.
I
If
mean,
they
if
don't
you
get their
think about
offensive
it,
line, it's not possible.
like you said, what happens if this O line doesn't change? Like this is the same thing we're talking about from last year. This O line still continues to struggle, and I mean, if this O line continues to struggle, like I said, I see them losing 4 games.
Yeah. But once you know, real quick to end off my point, shout out USF first of all. Todd Orlando, their defensive coordinator, brilliant game plan. Brilliant
Yeah,
game plan. Towards the end, not going for it on 4th and inches. Not only that, not going for it on 4th and goal when you're down by 8 points with like 5 minutes to go. Yes, I understand your defense has been able to get home and get stops, but come on now, you got to be able to shoot your shot whenever it's time. But I think this is also just a pretty good USF team. I think Byron Brown, if he learns how to throw the ball, well, we might all be in trouble. But God forbid that ever happens. But overall, I think the Crimson Tide are going to be fine. I think this was just early season. Got to work some stuff out.
Yeah, one thing that I want to say, after Saban left, of course, Kalen DeBoer came in. But the offensive coordinator for Alabama, I just want to highlight a few games for Washington last season. I don't know if y'all remember, but Arizona State played Washington. The final score was like 9-7. And what did Arizona State do that entire game? They blitzed Michael Penix Jr. and Nick Sheridan, the offensive coordinator, and Kalen DeBoer, the head coach, did not make a single adjustment that entire game. And that's exactly what happened in this Alabama game. Uh, in the fourth quarter, when they started pouring it on, that was just depth. That's literally all it was. Alabama had more depth than USF, but the problem with Sheridan and DeBoer is that they get so in their head about this game plan, and then they don't make adjustments at halftime or during the game. But I think if Bama playing in the toughest conference with Georgia, Tennessee, Missouri, and Oklahoma all on the schedule, they're gonna have to figure this out, and they're gonna have to be able to make these adjustments during the games. That's all I'm gonna have to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, I like your point there with the coaching staff because, like you said, I mean, I honestly think in my opinion, when they hired DeBoer, I don't think it was a good hire. I mean, he won games at Washington, but why did he win them? He had a good quarterback with Michael Penix Jr. And I mean, like Taylor said last year, they almost lost to
He also
Stanford.
had 3 NFL receivers.
Yeah, they almost lost to Stanford last year, Arizona State, and a bunch of other teams that weren't even that good. And this is why I think this Alabama team's going to struggle is because he's gotten rid of the Nick Saban culture and he's kind of changed everything. And also the coaching staff, just to me, is you're not going to go. This is what happened with Auburn and Brian Harsin. Brian Harsin went from out west and he came to the SEC and he realized real quick he wasn't meant for it. And I think the same thing will happen with Alabama, except they'll win more games because they have way more talent. But I do still think Milroe will be good if the O-line adjusts. But I just don't know. This coaching staff I just feel like this Alabama team this year is not going to be as good as everybody thinks they are. And this might be a team that we talk about at the end of the year being like an overrated team. But I mean, yeah, I'm going to do one more loser here, and y'all probably know who it is. It's Penn State. Penn State looked terrible against Bowling Green. I know Bowling Green, like, people could be like, oh, Bowling Green's, like, decent, but no, they're not. Bowling Green's terrible. They're in the MAC conference. And, I mean, honestly, Penn State got the win against West Virginia week 1, big win. But, I mean, Penn State almost losing to Bowling Green at home, that's not a good look for Penn State. And, I mean, honestly, what are y'all's thoughts on Penn State the rest of the season, and does this affect them, or will they still, make a CFP appearance?
Well, I'm going to try and keep this as short as possible because we're going to try and speed it up a little bit here. We try and keep these shows under an hour so y'all can get to what y'all are doing the rest of the day. But first of all, Reese, did you watch this game?
Yes.
Okay. I watched this game as well. Here's what I'll say for Penn State. I will say the silver lining in this is that not only did your defense make adjustments in the second half, I don't know, at the beginning of that game, Penn State's defense just looked inept. They could not stop Bowling Green. Like, they made Connor Baselak look like the next coming of Joe Flacco. Like, they made that dude look insanely good. And yes, I get that he's like a 6-year senior, but this is the Penn State defense that you're going to be playing Ohio State later this year. Like, you got to be able to stop Bowling Green. But I will say silver lining, you only allowed 3 more points, and that came in with a garbage time field goal in the second half. Absolutely locked them down, which the Penn State defense should do. Abdul Carter, A.J. Harris from Georgia, all those guys they've added are supposed to be great, and they were great in the second half. And then Drew Aller looked good. Drew Aller looked good in this game. I think we can all agree with that. And that was the problem last year for Penn State was, Drew Aller, is he the guy, in games that weren't huge games, he really performed really well. I mean, last year against Iowa, he put up like 3 touchdowns and was like basically perfect. But then when he goes against Ohio State, he looked inept. He did not look like he'd ever touched a football in his life. So I do think that is positive. That's the silver lining. The thing that y'all were worried about most all offseason being your Achilles heel, that wasn't your Achilles heel in this game. And so I think Penn State's also going to be fine. I think I think Bowling Green is obviously, this is unacceptable. And if you're James Franklin, you got to harp that throughout the week, for this Penn State in the Penn State locker room at practice. But I also think that Scotty Leffler, the Bowling Green head coach, I don't know if y'all know, he used to be a head coach at Michigan. And, this is a guy that came in with a great game plan and has really always been known for being like the trick play, offensive mastermind that really isn't known about because he's at Bowling Green. But I just think it was a great game plan by the Falcons, and I think Penn State wasn't expecting it at the start, but second half came out, won the game, did what they need to do. At the end of the day, they won the game, and I think that's what's really important.
Yeah, I agree with Max on this one. I honestly think Drew Aller played pretty good. The run game for Penn State was good. I don't think it was the offense at all. Putting up 34 points is a win every single week. But yeah, this Penn State offense or defense, excuse me, struggled in the first half to keep Bazelak under control. Led him to 2 touchdowns and 2 picks at the end. But unfortunately, I didn't get to watch this game. We were watching the Arkansas-Oklahoma State game. But yeah, this Penn State team, I think they'll be fine. Especially with the Big Ten now is a very tough conference. So, and they definitely got the lighter half of it. They only play USC and Ohio State. They're 2 ranked opponents this year. Of course, you still got to watch out for those unranked opponents. But yeah, I think this Penn State team will be fine. I think Drew Aller will bounce back. I just think James Franklin needs to come up with better. I think the thing about James Franklin is he comes in with the wrong strategy, but he's a guy that does the opposite of of Kalen DeBoer, and he like changes his game plan throughout the game very well.
Yeah. I mean, good points by both of y'all there. And, obviously this is called the winners and losers segment. And the last team we're going to do is a winner. And, Max, you, Max, you highlighted this team. You said they were going to upset Kansas and the Illinois Fighting Illini. They did upset Kansas indeed. And, I mean, like you said, this defense for Illinois is nothing to mess around with. And, I mean, what were y'all's opinions on this Kansas-Illinois game?
Well, I mean, I appreciate the credit that you're giving me, Reese. I thought Kansas was going to pull this one out. I truly did. I had Kansas. If you saw also on my Instagram at max_23.mesman, follow me. But
shouting out, there we go.
But anyways, no, I actually thought Kansas outside of Utah. I think they're the second best team in the Big 12, at least going into the season. But Illinois' defense, this Illinois team, the great thing about them and the way that Brett Bielema really runs them is how he ran it at Arkansas. They don't do a lot of things wrong. If you really look at this team, I mean, no turnovers, or actually they had 1 turnover as a fumble. But you look at Luke Altmaier, he didn't throw any touchdowns, but 16 for 25 with 192 yards in the air, it's just not a lot of mistakes for this Illinois team. And I thought Kansas was going to be able to match that. A very well-coached team. Kansas and Illinois both are. But I think, this Illinois team, the tough part for them is that, yes, there is a big talent gap when it comes to Illinois. I know they're in the Big Ten, but they've never been good at recruiting. Brett Bielema, that's always been his Achilles heel. So, yes, they'll beat Kansas, and I think this is a huge win for Illinois. I think this actually, solidifies them as a team that's going to make a bowl game, which is pretty big for Illinois right now, considering there's been years where they've been absolutely terrible. But I think they're going to beat Central Michigan upcoming at home, and then you get Nebraska on the road. And so I think Illinois, I think that, they just got to be consistent. They just got to be consistent with it, and I think that's what hit Kansas. This game was a lot similar to the Georgia Tech-Syracuse game, which I also told you was the upset alert as well. And, you didn't think that, Georgia Tech, they were the story of the year starting off the season. No, I mean, all of these teams in the Power Four, besides a couple, all these teams are good. Y'all got to understand that. If you're new to watching college football, any team can win on any given day. I mean, just Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame. It's like any team can win on any given day, and I feel like Illinois had the juice this week. The question is, can they keep it up week by week? And if you're Kansas, this is a good Illinois team, and it's not an in-conference game, so I don't think you have to worry too much. Jalen Daniels, I need to see a little bit more with all the hype I was hearing about him. Devin Neal's going to be fine. He's going to be NFL back, but great win for Illinois, and I think Kansas will be fine.
Yeah, sorry. Answering your question, Max, about Illinois keeping this juice up. I honestly don't think it's possible. They play Central Michigan this week. Then they go at Nebraska, at Penn State, at Oregon. They play Michigan at home. That's the thing with the Big Ten, dude. The Big Ten is just stacked now.
Oh, they're cooked.
Altmaier, he's pretty good. He showed flashes at Ole Miss under Jackson Dart for a long time, but yeah, I just don't think this Illinois team is it. I think that's why they weren't ranked in this new AP Top 25. I think the experts did a good job on that. But yeah, I think Kansas will be fine. They'll bounce back I would say the Big 12 is definitely weaker than the Big 10. You still got to watch out for teams such as ASU, Arizona, teams like that. But yeah, I think both these teams will be fine. Illinois will not keep it going, but Kansas will. So,
yeah, I mean, honestly though, the winner of the week goes to the state of Illinois, and gotta play that fight song, bro. We gotta get the Northern Illinois fight song. Yay!
Illinois and Northern Illinois.
I would say the whole state of Illinois would be the winner of the week though, but that's gonna do it for winners and losers college football. Tomorrow we will have fantasy breakdown, my segment, but now we're gonna go over to Taylor's segment. Is it trash can or hottest take today?
Trash can, bro.
Trash can.
Roll that intro.
Straight from the garbage disposal, this team played like absolute This is Taylor's trash can.
All right, so as Max was saying earlier, week 1 of the NFL season did not disappoint. We had a great Thursday night game, a decent Friday night game. I would say pretty decent. And then all day Sunday, watching NFL Red Zone, using some NFL Plus to watch every single game. It was a good time here at Arizona State University, but there was one game in particular that I did not get to watch because I was watching the Broncos game, and that was the Cowboys versus the Browns. The Cowboys absolutely demolished the Browns in this game. Dak Prescott played all right, going 19 for 32. Zeke had 10 carries for 4 yards and a touchdown. CeeDee Lamb was back to where he was when he signed the dang contract, like we said a few weeks ago in our first episode. But yeah, this Dallas defense, dude, there was so much pressure on the quarterback. It was insane. They had 6 total tackles for losses. I'm not sure how many. Oh, they had 6 sacks. That's insane. This Browns team could not contain the Cowboys. But going off of that, my trash can of the week is going to have to be the Cleveland Browns, but specifically Deshaun Watson, because Deshaun Watson is now in another court case. The NFL says, according to ESPN, this is per ESPN, probably Adam Schefter, the NFL says it is reviewing a civil lawsuit filed Monday accusing Deshaun Watson of sexual assault and battery in October 2022 when he was a member of the Houston Texans. They're reviewing the complaint. They're going to do everything they can to probably get him to still play because he makes the NFL so much money. But yeah, this Browns team, going into the season, they were ranked number 12 in the preseason power rankings. They were supposed to be pretty good this year, looking to come out on top against a top 5 team, I would say, in the Dallas Cowboys at home. You had the home crowd behind you. Deshaun Watson, 24 for 45, a touchdown, 2 interceptions, 6 sacks for a loss of 32 yards. Jerome Ford looked fine, 12 rushes for 44 yards. But yeah, this Browns team, if you're paying Deshaun Watson $46 million a year over some notable names such as Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Matthew Stafford, you're paying him more than those guys, top level guys, then yeah, you got to figure something out. I'm going to throw them. So I want to make this segment a little quick. I just want to throw them in the trash can. And yeah, the Cleveland Browns, there's week 2 is at Jacksonville.
which I think honestly, if you can't figure this out, that's another loss to this decent Jacksonville team. So yeah, throw Deshaun Watson in the trash can, put him in jail. He really does not need to be playing the game of football after how many law cases has he even had? I feel like
Almost 30.
yeah,
Right here, 25 plus women. So
if you're at
Over
20,
under.
24 women and now a 25th charge, just get him out of the league, guys. I know you're paying him a bunch of money. Just put him in the slammer.
Over under was
Can
30.
I say something real quick? I
Yeah.
wish I could share my screen real quick. It's hilarious. I'm on NFL.com reading about this sexual assault charge, and a Hilton further stay massaging ad came up. I just thought that was hilarious. That's just crazy how that works. No, what I want to say real quick about Deshaun Watson, I do need to give him his flowers because when he was at Clemson, like that was that year when he beat that pass to Hunter Renfrow to beat Alabama. That was the year that I really fell in love with college football. I'll just be 100% honest. Like Clemson, Deshaun Watson was must-watch football. Like absolutely. When he was at the Texans, he was must-watch football. Him and D-Hop, were good. But then come 2020, he decides to get freaky deaky and start massaging up on like a bunch of what, like I don't know what's going on. Like it's the same with John Morant. Like any of these players, like I'm gonna be honest with you, you're a millionaire. That's great at a sport. You're not going into the military. All right, you're not doing any of these hard labor jobs. Right. So what are you doing? You're literally selling the bag. Like by what that must have been a great massage. Like, I'm sorry. Like I just don't understand. If I was in a position that Deshaun Watson was in, and maybe he just sucks now, maybe he's just washed. And I think it's the funniest thing that Baker Mayfield, who wasn't good enough for Cleveland, they told him that to his face, is now having a great time in Tampa Bay. Shout out Baker, my fantasy quarterback, put up 30 this week, while Deshaun Watson, I don't even know if he put up 10, which is, oh, by the way, less than the amount of women that are accusing him of assault. That's how bad it is for Deshaun Watson. For the Browns, I mean, yeah, I'm sorry for y'all. Like, this Browns, I watched that game. Everybody, like that stadium was packed, and people were looking happy at the start of the game. And then towards the end, they showed a kid in the stadium who was decked out in Browns gear, was just crying. But I would too. If my quarterback was over
My
here,
quarterback was touching little people.
Exactly, just trying to get his little hands, and little every nook and cranny that he can. Like it's terrible in Cleveland right now. And I agree with you, Taylor. Throw him in the trash. And Deshaun, gross.
Stop touching people.
Deshaun Watson, here is your new home. This is better than jail a little bit. Put him in there. Put him behind bars. I don't know what you got to do to get that man out of the league.
Nah, he'll still get a massage behind bars, bro.
Exactly.
We're gonna move on to.
We're
gonna move on to our first rendition of the year of Max's top picks because we didn't get an episode out last week or a second episode out last week. So, Max, take him away.
Yep.
Hey y'all, Future Taylor popping in. Just want to shout out our Instagram real quick at GameTimePod_official. We're gonna be posting graphics, episode updates. If we miss an episode, we're gonna let y'all know. It's a great way to see what's going on in the lives of us three too. If y'all want to drop us a follow as well, our ats are on there. But enjoy the rest of this episode, and we cannot wait to start having 2 episodes a week. I'm super excited. I know Max and Reese are. Let's get on with the episode.
Yeah. So, you're absolutely right. Last week we did not get an episode out. Screen record. But now we're on.
You.
No shame against you, Reese. It's just, gosh,
I'm gonna go to show
anyway,
Watson on you, bro.
So today we're actually doing the reaction episode. So we're not going to be picking who we think is going to win next week. That's going to be tomorrow on a segment. I'm going to start calling Call Your Shots because we're going to be picking today what matchups. First of all, what teams do we think need to rebound going into next week? What teams are on high alert for rebounding next week? And what teams are on upset alert next week? So we can call this locks, leans, and dogs. We could call it, upset alert versus high alert. But whatever y'all want
Deshaun
to call it.
versus Alien.
Yeah, whatever. It's funny because that was my old fantasy name when I was gonna draft him, and then the second case came up. Anyways, who do y'all have on high alert, and who do y'all have on upset alert for next week? Who needs to respond, and who might be looking for a rebound after week 2 of the NFL and week 3 of college football? Give them to me.
Yeah, I'm gonna start with my college football team that I think needs to bounce back. I think this team kind of flew under the radar this week because they did play a really small opponent and they still won. I'm talking about the Arizona Wildcats. Right down the road, rival school, no bias or anything. Northern Arizona is a small university here in the state of Arizona. It's ASU, Arizona, Grand Canyon, and then NAU. Like NAU barely has a football team. All their players don't even have pictures on ESPN. Arizona looked like straight ass. I mean, they were down at halftime 10-6, took the lead, dominated in the second half. No points by Northern Arizona. But Noah Fafita, 18 for 26, 173 yards, a touchdown and a pick. It was all about the run game for the Wildcats. It was Conley, and McMillan. I don't know how to say his first name. Sorry. Only 2 receptions, for 11 yards. So this Arizona
Is
team
he hurt?
now, I think he is kind of hurt, but not really.
Yeah, because I don't know. I saw something.
Yeah, but they're going at Kansas State on Friday, 2 days from when you're listening to this, 5 p.m. my time, Mountain Time on Fox. And yeah, they got to figure something out before they play at Kansas State and at home at Utah 2 weeks in a row. So yeah, this Arizona Wildcats team needs to figure something out. And then for a team that I honestly think will be on upset watch this week. Hold on, let me find it real quick. I honestly think the Cowboys are on upset watch by those New Orleans Saints. New Orleans, I know they played the Panthers, but they looked really good. Alvin Kamara looked amazing. Derek Carr looked like Tom Brady out there. And of course Shaheed going deep. You got is Olave isn't hurt, is he?
No, he's just performing like ass for whatever reason.
Yeah, but I honestly think this Cowboys team, they played the trash Browns that I just talked about. Dak Prescott's got to figure something out to get that completion percentage up against this stacked Saint defense. But yeah, give me the Saints and Cowboys. I think it's gonna be a good game. I think the Saints can honestly upset the Cowboys.
Dude,
Yeah,
I'm going with my upset game. I'm gonna go with my upset game first here. And my upset game is actually gonna be I'm gonna say Boston College and Missouri. Look out for an upset possibly there. I think this could be a good game. Both of these teams run a different scheme. Boston College is the team that likes to run those 14-minute drives that take forever, and Missouri likes to run those quick drives. And I think if Boston College can put in that game plan to just, make it to where Missouri can't run their game plan, I think Boston College gets a big win at Missouri and continues this Cinderella season that nobody thought of. Boston College is like the first time they've been ranked since World War One. So I mean,
including So Matt Ryan.
And then I'm gonna go to the NFL. Let me find it real quick. For a team to bounce back, I'm not gonna say the Panthers. I'm gonna say the Jets. I'm gonna say the Jets and Titans, 12 p.m. on CBS. I say Aaron Rodgers has a great game against Will Levis. Will Levis gonna be on his knees all game after throwing that interception. But yeah, I think the Jets will get a bounce back win here in Nissan Stadium, and I mean, yeah, I think this is gonna be a good week for college football and NFL. So can't wait to see what happens.
Well, before I get into my high alert versus upset alert, we just want to let y'all know that we do drop an episode every Wednesday and Thursday. So be sure to tune in tomorrow because we will be making our score predictions for these games, who we think is officially going to win, as well as are they going to cover, because we know for all y'all gambling addicts out there, y'all need y'all's spreads and parlays. But for my upset alert in the college football realm, I'm actually going to go with the LSU Tigers. I think LSU going on the road to South Carolina. I think this is going to be, first of all, I think this is going to be a great game. And for everybody that's saying, yeah, this upcoming slate is, I'm gonna admit it's a little bit weak. We only have 2 ranked versus ranked matchups. We have one on Friday, one on Saturday. But I think there's some great games, great potential on this slate. Boston College, Missouri, I think has potential to be a great game. Tulane, Oklahoma, I think has the potential to be a good game.
Auburn, New
But
Mexico.
I think, yeah, dude, I hope not. I hope not for
I
my
hope
sanity. But no, this game being game day, I think is a good pick by College Game Day, and I think South Carolina really showed what they're made up against Kentucky. Excuse me, sorry, but no, I think South Carolina is going to be rocking. First of all, that stadium, I think, is one of the most underrated stadiums in the country. With all the towels, I know it's 11 a.m., but you're going to be hearing that caca in the background. And I'm not going to say whether or not I do think South Carolina is going to upset them right now, but I do think LSU needs to be on high alert. Dylan Stewart off the edge is a guy to watch. And then to bounce back in the NFL, hold up, let me get to it. Scanning. To bounce back in the NFL, I am going to have to go with the Indianapolis Colts. I think going on the road against the Packers, who are another team that does need to bounce back, I think the Colts showed a lot of promise. Not only Colts, Anthony Richardson. I'm sure you all seen it. The pass off his back foot, with a defender in his face, 60 yards down the field, just like that, and he didn't even have a full fluid motion for that throw. I don't know if y'all saw that, but I think the Colts have a lot of promise. Jonathan Taylor in the backfield. Alec Pierce is a guy that on wide receiver. I think Josh Downs is back this week too. Think about that. He wasn't even playing in that game, and they almost beat the freaking Houston Texans, who a lot of people have been calling a sleeper for the Super Bowl. But I think the Colts really have an opportunity to bounce back here on the road against the Packers, against a team that has Malik Willis as their starting quarterback. Like, come on now. So I think the Indianapolis Colts, I'm not going to say whether or not I do think they will upset right now, but I do think that the Colts have a chance to be on a rebound. So that's going to do it for the Game Time Talk Show. I'm your host, or one of your co-hosts, Max Mesman, and I'm joined by Reese Kinder and Taylor Gottney, and that's going to do it. Be sure, if you're on YouTube, to like and subscribe to the show.
Yes.
And if you're listening to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anything like that, I don't know what Reese is dancing for, but that's going to do it. Anyways, for this show, I already said that. And real quick, actually, one thing I want to do every time we're on the show, question of the day. Who is going to start this weekend? And just one word answer. Who is it going to be? DJU, Peyton Thorne, neither, or both?
I think Peyton Thorne starts. I think both start. I think it's too early to give up on both of them.
Okay.
Yeah, honestly, I do think both do, because the only way DJU just doesn't start is if, like, Mike Norvell thinks Memphis has got it, which I do think Memphis does got it. I think Memphis wins, honestly. But, I mean, I do think both of them start.
Yeah, I agree. Both as well. It's a full-on, full 3-0 sweep for the question of the day. But that's something I want to start doing. And speaking of which, shout out our Instagram real quick, GameTimePod_official. That is where you can DM us your questions of the day, and we'd love to get them on the show and shout you out as well. So, but that being said, we are going to end this episode right now. See y'all tomorrow. Peace.
Thank y'all for listening to this episode of Game Time Podcast. Remember, we upload every Wednesday and Thursday, and hope to see y'all next time.